Guardians, welcome back. This Guardian Mo's back online. So I just checked out a clip on the Dan Wootton show. Dan had invited Don Keith onto a show to highlight his interview with Matt Goodwin. So for those of you who don't know Don Keith, he's this political commentator from America, actually. And he's attended every single Tommy Robinson rally that we've had, you know, the United Kingdom movements in central London. And I think this guy's brilliant. He says a lot of the right things. He's made really brilliant speeches and he's on our side. He supports Tommy Robinson wholeheartedly. And he presents this argument to Matt Goodwin that Tommy Robinson has actually been calling out the government's actions or inaction for dealing with the immigration problem, for dealing with the Islamic extremism problem, and how it has an incredibly negative effect on social cohesion, the safety of the communities in his hometown in Luton. And this is how Matt Goodwin has to respond.
He could just say, just not talk. I mean, politicians in America do it all the time. If media asks them about somebody, they just either no comment or they just move on. But you know, there's a difference between not talking about it and just making up a blatant lie about the guy, because he's never assaulted a woman. I think he actually owes Tommy an apology for that part of it. You know what I mean?
I didn't. Yeah. So I didn't quite see the incident you're referring to.
Yeah, it was GB, maybe GB News. I
Right.
have a clip of it, but you know, I'm gonna play this clip for you, and I'm just give you an idea. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Nigel from 2016. I wish he would get back to being that guy. I'm just gonna play this real quick for you.
Times today is carrying a story about one of your aides and colleagues, George Cottrell, who has a conviction for wire fraud in the America and has been named in another criminal investigation in Montenegro. Do you want him by your side on the campaign trail?
I firstly always stand by my friends. And secondly, there is a thing called Christian forgiveness. If people get convicted of something or do something wrong, well, they have another chance in life to go on and prove themselves.
Mr. Farage, thank you.
If in a country that believes in Christian forgiveness, he is not a good example to young tearaways, I don't think it is. Do you believe in Christian forgiveness?
Everyone believes in redemption. Everyone should have second chances.
Is he not a very good example?
Nigel, that is not the question I'm asking.
Would you accept Robinson as a member of your party? You keep over the association with him last time.
You know, Robinson has been to prison many, many times for many, many things. Mortgage fraud, passport problems, you name it. He's got his own campaign. We're a political party aiming to win the next general election. He's not what we need.
Yeah. So you see what I mean? I get the whole strategy about Tommy, but it's like everybody deserves Christian forgiveness except for Tommy Robinson. So, you know, that's just what kind of irks me about Nigel.
Well, from
George
Nigel's
Cottrell was his
perspective,
financier. Just to give you a little background, I don't know if you know, George Cottrell actually funded his trip to see Elon. 11,000 pounds he paid for Nigel's trip to see Elon. The other guy was James McMurdoch, MP, Reform MP. So those guys deserve Christian forgiveness, but you know, a working class guy like Tommy Robinson does, and that's what just kind of irritates me about Nigel. If he could just lay off that kind of stuff and, you know, speak his message, I think he'd get a lot more support, because Tommy, believe it or not, has Sky News reported that Tommy's Trafalgar Square demo had 100,000 people at it. So if 100,000 people are attending a demo, there's got to be millions out there who like the guy.
I think there is an important dividing line between people who are campaigning primarily at elections and people who are campaigning primarily on the street. Mm-hmm. And I do think that distinction is important. I mean, whatever you think about Nigel Farage, he's the only politician in British political history who's won 2 nationwide elections with 2 different parties. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't, you know, it's with both the UK Independence Party and the Brexit Party. I think Tommy Robinson stood for election at a European Parliament election in a part of the country, and I think he polled 2 or 3%. Now, that's not a criticism of Robinson. It's just to say that these two guys have fundamentally different views about how to change the country.
How long ago was that Tommy ran? Do you know?
I would have guessed, 2019?
2019, that recent. Okay.
2019, 2014. But I think, look, I think underneath this is an even deeper question, which is, how do you actually save a country?
So, I mean, I find that all really, really fascinating.
So from the get-go, it's actually almost hilarious to see that he just goes radio silent for 10 seconds. He has absolutely no idea how to respond to the truth bomb that he's just witnessed right in front of him, that Don Keith has exposed Nigel Farage. He doesn't acknowledge not Tommy Robinson's efforts to expose the grooming gangs, to expose the immigration problem. So Nigel Farage is on about Christian forgiveness, right? Of letting people have second chances. But that simply doesn't apply to Tommy Robinson. And Don Keith makes it very clear that Tommy Robinson is owed an apology by Nigel Farage. But Matt Goodwin doesn't seem to understand that. He doesn't seem to understand that this guy actually was the one who came out, put his foot forward, and stamped down on the government, called them out for not dealing with the immigration problem, for not dealing with this mass immigration of illegal migrants coming into their streets to rape, sexually assault, and harm the lives of young, innocent girls. But he repeats the same old bullshit nonsense that he does on the podcast interview he did with Jordan Peterson. And he's basically saying the same thing, exactly the same thing, of what Ben Habib was accusing him of. He's conflating popularity of reform with reform's effective policy. Just because reform and Nigel Farage are making huge leads and are gaining in numbers in the polls doesn't mean that they are the right party that we should be supporting. Matt Goodwin just simply doesn't understand the reality of things, that reform are not the party that are supporting the British people. They are alienating the very people who support Tommy Robinson, the very people who actually are holding these politicians to account and trying our best to support the victims of sexual assault. Nigel Farage just simply couldn't give a toss about them. And this is the only thing that Matt Goodwin just doesn't seem to understand, and he will not admit.